Alright, I'm going to roll a 2 3 times in a row. First try. I'm starting off here with a piece of maple that is roughly milled up, probably about a year and a half ago. I'm cutting a as straight of line as I can on the bandsaw, and I'll get it real nice and straight or flat with a hand plane. Then I put that planed face up against the fence of my bandsaw and ripped out a half-inch thick strip and cleaned up all those sides with my hand plane. And I tried to make 1 inch squares here, or at least lay out 1 inch squares. The width of this piece of wood wasn't exactly an inch, so they ended up being rectangles. And it all worked out. I just had to trim off more material later down the line. And here I'm numbering the slices. That's going to help me keep track of what order they need to be in, as well as which faces I need to sand. At this point, I'm just sanding the inside faces that will have glue on them. The outside faces still need to be trimmed to size, so that would just be a waste to sand them now. And now we get into the fun part. Carving a cavity out of the bottom slice. Just make sure it's either the top or the bottom slice if you make this. And that's what's going to load this dice. And I'm going to fill this cavity up with lead. You could possibly carve out the upper slice as well to make it lighter, just to make a larger difference between the top and the bottom. That's not what I did in this case, but if you decide to do this, go for it. Now the lead isn't going to stick to the wood, so I put some hot glue in there just to ensure that it's not rattling around and that it's going to stay put. And now it's time for the glue up. Make sure that lead isn't sticking out proud out of that cavity, or else your glue up won't be right. I'm just gluing 2 pieces at a time. It's a lot less stressful to deal with 2 slippery pieces than 3. So once those first 2 pieces were stuck, I put that third one on there. Once that glue dried, I tried to square it up as best I could on the table saw. What I'm doing isn't super safe, so don't do it. But be safe, but do what you need to do to get it square. This is just what I did. A little safer option would be what I'm doing here. However, it is freehanding, so it's not going to be as accurate. In the end, be smart. And once I got it roughly square off the table saw, I took it to the belt sander. And that's a lot more safer and easier to work with small pieces of wood like this. I ended up scorching a few of the faces, so I had to sand that off so it looks nice. Wasn't going to stain this or paint it or anything. And I worked my way up to 220 grit. In doing that, the edges where the 2 faces come together, as well as the corners, got real sharp. So I sanded those down, but you have to be real careful when sanding the edges down because there's not a whole lot of material on them. So just a couple strokes is all you need. I would go 3 strokes on one side, flip it around, 3 strokes on the other. That's all you need, really. Then I penciled in where the dots need to go, and I indented each dot with a scratch awl. Just made a little dent in there. That way, my wood burner had somewhere to register. So there was less of a chance of it just like sliding off and making marks where I didn't want it to. And with wood burners, there's usually a little bit of scorching on the outside of your design, so I just sanded the first layer off, and that makes it look a little cleaner. Then, after 2 coats of clear coat, I rolled it a bunch of times and I recorded 300. And after I ran all the numbers, I found that 2, which is the number that's supposed to face up most of the time, showed up about 42.3% of the time. And that's pretty significant because on a normal dice, any number should show up about 16.7% of the time. So with this dice, 2 shows up about 3 times more frequently than it's supposed to. So I consider this a success. I'd like a dice that's about 50% accurate, not 43. To do that, I might have to hollow out the face that's opposite to the weight. I'll figure out how to do that later. So here's all my work. Check it if you want. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in my next video.